stability shines with the Yonex eZone 98 Tour. For 2025, the heaviest member of the eZone family provides even better feel and responsiveness than the previous generation. Updated with a new frame geometry, the beam in the upper hoop is slightly thicker to enhance power and stability. Yonex also adds Minilon to the shaft to help dampen harsh vibrations, while 2G NOM speed helps transfer energy to the ball. The isometric head shape remains, offering a larger and more forgiving sweet spot compared to traditional head shapes. Advanced players looking for plow-through and precision will find it here. I had the chance to play test the eZone 98, the eZone 98 Plus, and this heavier tour version. They all are amazing rackets, and first thing I noted from all of three of those play tests is the updated feel. You can call it whatever you like, but for me, I find the racket to pocket even better than the previous one, and I really like that. So I'm enjoying this racket with that higher swing weight, a little more stability, a little higher in weight, right in my wheelhouse. The second thing I noticed on this play test was I was hugging the baseline as I like to do, and I could really dig out deep balls and transition from that defense back into offense and back again when needed. However, it was pretty funny. I was looking at my comments from the previous version and I literally said the exact same thing, but it's something I really appreciate about this racket. It has that stability and enough plow to push through the ball, but it's also still maneuverable enough. It doesn't have the swing weight that's too chunky, so I love that about this racket. Serving, comparing it to the other two eZones that I tested, I would give a slight edge to that 98 Plus in terms of serves, but I was getting a ton of pace and good movement from this one on first and second serves. And at net, it was so stable, so I would give the edge to this racket at the net. I find it, again, to be maneuverable enough, no issues getting it into place. And lastly, on returns, which is one of my favorite shots, I have to say the 98 Tour is supreme. It's so stable, and it allows me to take short backswings, plow through the ball, or just block balls back depending on what I'm given. All in all, just an amazing play test. If you like the previous version, this is gonna be a seamless transition.
Really enjoyed my time on court with this 98 Tour from Yonex. It's really beefy racket. Definitely if you like previous versions of this one, you're gonna find that similar spec of just a lot of mass coming through the ball. It really dominates the experience of hitting with this racket. I loved it at net. It's one of my favorite places to be with this one. Super solid, a lot of incoming pace, and it would just absorb it so well. I could punch the ball back deeply, or I could bleed that pace off and hit some nice drop volleys. I also really liked it on serve. I found that mass added some pop to my first serve. I wouldn't say it was as whippy as rackets I typically use, and so I wasn't getting quite the access to spin that I get on the serve, but that's more a reflection of my swing style and strength as opposed to the capabilities of the racket. And then from the baseline, hitting with it, I found it honestly a bit too much for me spec-wise, but when I played points with it, it really tidied up my game and actually played points really well with this one. So a fun play test for me.
So right off of the bat, I could tell that this racket had a lot of power, a lot of pop. And that was both a good and bad thing for me depending on what I was trying to do. So for example, on serves, flat serves, I was hitting really, really huge serves. I got a few aces off of my friends as well, and it was really good. But then on my kick serves, I was struggling to get the racket over my head and get that pronation in. This is something I struggled with the eZone 98 Tour from the previous version as well. So I wouldn't say this is a knock on this racket or anything of the matter, but it's just something that I have struggled with. My ground strokes were really good. This combination of power and control on the racket really lets you open up the court and be really aggressive. I personally had to kind of hold back on taking full swings, so I made my shots a little bit more compact, a little bit shorter take back, because again, this racket is very powerful. So it's very easy to go straight for the back fence. I would like to mention that I wish that this racket wasn't as muted as it is. I preferred the feel and the feedback I was getting on the previous version of this racket. I liked it on the regular eZone 98, but for a racket with this mass and this swing weight, I wish I had a little bit more feedback, like especially on the touch and like drop shots. I found that a lot of my drop shots were sitting a bit too high when I tried to hit it, and that would set up my opponents for a really easy winner on me, which I did not like, obviously. So if you're looking for a racket that's got power and control and has that soft, muted feel, definitely check out the eZone 98 Tour.
This update to the eZone 98 Tour really gave me a lot of options. I know the other play testers kind of mentioned a blend of power and control. I was really impressed with the mass-based power, but at the same time, the thinness in the throat really gave me a lot of control. So banging away from the backcourt, hitting ground strokes off of either wing was a lot of fun and a breeze. But as play closed to the net and I needed a little bit more touch and less power, this racket was extremely predictable and obedient for just exactly that kind of a transition. I would say the string pattern doesn't really seem to change much. The overall spec of this racket didn't change in terms of swing weight. Maybe it feels a little softer. I know the RA came down a couple of points, but overall, I was getting good feedback. I do agree with Monish in that a lighter racket maybe benefits a little bit more from the Midland fibers, dampening effect. The mass does a lot of that for you, but I felt like I was getting great feedback. I had no problem finding my targets, and in fact, my favorite shot to hit with this racket wasn't the second serve, but it was the first. More down the tee or the middle body shot seemed to be very easy for me to hit over and over, and unlike many other rackets, I could really trust in my return with the new E-Zone 98 Tour, which is very uncharacteristic of me. I try and really chip the ball, and I found myself having time on the backswing to get over the top of it, making it definitely one of the funnest rackets I've played with in a long time. And if you're wondering how this compares with the E-Zone 98 Plus, I was a part of that review as well. I would say they're both very mass-based powerful, but the extra length, I would say, makes the Plus a little more difficult to maneuver around the court. The 98 Tour gave me just a little bit more of that all-court maneuverability that I crave.
We had the opportunity to play test this racket with a bunch of different string setups, but today you are seeing Poly Tour Pro along with Poly Tour Rev from Yonex at 52 pounds. To learn more about this racket and many others, please visit us at Tennis Warehouse, Tennis Warehouse Europe, or Tennis Only.